Hello, everyone. Thank you again for coming and showing up for GoDaddy Pro EMEA Meetup. Today is 30th of August. We're going to have so much great time. Today we have Nick with us. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Hey, Maya, I'm doing well.
I'm so glad to see you. We already sparkled some very interesting conversation. And before we even start with the official meetup, I didn't want the people actually who will be listening to this video later to miss out maybe on the best bits and pieces, where the human emotion actually jumps in, where there are no algorithms, mathematics, but it's just a pure gut. So while our attendees are joining, in the meantime, I will first ask you to tell us who you are, what you do, and how are you feeling today?
Yeah, thanks. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to be here. This is a fun one. I've done a few of these like meetups and webinars through GoDaddy Pro, but this is my first time with the EMEA folks. So I'm excited to see this crowd. Get to hang out with Maya some more. Yeah, my name's Nick McLaughlin. I'm on the GoDaddy Care team. I'm on a team that's specifically focused on commerce, and even within that, like WooCommerce specifically. Supporting small businesses who are running WooCommerce stores through the use of our hosting platform, or even just some of our plugins and extensions and stuff like that. Yeah, I've been around WooCommerce. I mean, roughly around it. Maybe not in a full professional sense, but at least using and aware of it since, I don't know, it's been at least 6 or 7 years at this point. Starting out, which is sort of what we were talking about before, with a small business here. I'm in Portland, Oregon, here in the States. So it's early morning for me, actually. I'm enjoying my coffee. I understand that maybe doesn't line up with where the rest of the audience is going to be at, but yeah, definitely still in the coffee stage of my morning. Yeah, so started working for a small business here and built out their e-commerce, like direct to consumer stuff, and then also some wholesale things, both like on the business end and building out websites and stuff for that using WooCommerce. So started getting my feet wet there, trying to figure out what the heck this whole WooCommerce thing was, as I needed to learn, and now I'm trying to teach more people about it and get that info out and share what I've learned. So yeah.
I'm sure a number of our viewers and tonight's attendees and your morning attendees, right?
Yeah.
Are going
Tonight.
to
Yeah.
be
I'll have to myself to say tonight. Yeah.
they are going to be surely rewarded with some great tips. But before you start and before we go deeper in the topic, how would you see WooCommerce as a business tool? I mean, I'm sure that you don't only have this professional attachment to it, but you have this personal and emotional attachment to
Mm.
WooCommerce. So, what's WooCommerce for you?
Oh gosh, for me. Yeah. Wow, that's a good question. I love that. Yeah, so this really does get at a lot of like, why am I here? What's up? My big thing with like both WordPress and WooCommerce, obviously being kind of the main e-commerce wing of that, is that it's open source, part of like this free open internet project that people are contributing to all the time. And I think that is the solution, or at least the better team to be on, compared to a lot of the solutions that are out there that are a lot more like proprietary software and things that have just proven to not have user interests in mind even. Like definitely not at the end of the day, not any more than can be proven to these disinterested investors. I don't want to get too into the like geopolitics of it, maybe, but I really do. I believe that WooCommerce is a tool that's giving that power back to the people that are using the tools, rather than somebody who put a patent on it first or is selling it to you. So as much as, yes, I'm going to talk about things that you can buy in this talk, and I realize that there's some irony in that, maybe, that I'm saying it's all free, it's great, but that is really the selling point for me. I think that openness just builds such a beautiful community around it. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you, seriously, because I worked in many different industries. Sorry for this noise outside.
I'll probably have some too. Yeah.
My window stayed open, and I really love the fresh air. So, without further ado, I have before you actually jump into your talk, I wanted to ask you one question, and I would like to ask everyone here as well if they can give us their answer in chat. How many times a week you order food to your home?
Oh no. I'm getting called out a little bit. My like prepared budgeted answer is once a week. My partner and I plan on like one night a week where we don't have to worry about dinner and we just order once a week. Last week, I think it was 3 or 4 nights. Especially towards the end of the week, we really fell off. So thankfully, we've got plenty of groceries still from last week that we don't have to go shopping again. But yeah, we definitely overdid it a little this week. Oh, that's great, Marcus. Oh, I think you're muted.
That's true.
There
Oh,
you
that's true. So Marcus says like somewhere between once a week and too many times, which is like awesome. I mean, this really describes my online food shopping habits. And the second question is, what attracts you to the website? The easiness of how you're ordering or the quality of food?
Ooh, it's definitely both. I think the initial attraction is definitely the food. I living in Portland. Portland has a really good food scene. There's just and the small business that I worked for before was kind of really involved in a lot of that. And so I'm always like keeping my eye on like good food in town. So that's what'll get me there. But if it's a bad ordering experience, I might not come back. Like I hate wrestling with an ordering website, especially as somebody who like knows how these things are built professionally. It bothers me that much more to know that it could be better.
What I've seen, like since I've been in physical business development, right? Before the digital era kicked in at
Mm.
miles an hour, right? So it was really. I met so many great professionals, like bakers, like restaurant, or like cooks, actually, like many different backgrounds of theirs, where they really were brilliant. But then managing online stuff for them became like just a
Oh,
nightmare, and they had to really change. So I'm before actually I just give you the floor. I will minimize myself and be in the chat, and let us dive into the world of e-commerce for restaurants. Thank you very much.
oh, that's great. Awesome. Thanks, Maya. Yeah, I'm excited to get this going. I'll go ahead and share my screen so we can get the presentation up, and there we are. Yeah, so as introduced, again, thanks Maya for that setup. My name is Nick McLaughlin. One more time for anybody who's just coming in, I'm on the care team here at GoDaddy, focusing specifically on WooCommerce care, so supporting small businesses who are using WooCommerce to host their online stores. Been around WooCommerce for about 6 or 7 years now, originally starting with a small business and helping them build out their own stuff here locally, just as an employee, and then kind of moving on to the tech side of things, to be on the support role and be helping more and more people do that for themselves. So today I want to talk about getting started. We'll cover like the very basics of getting started with pickup stores in WooCommerce, like the lowest barrier of entry ways that you can do that. And then move on up to kind of leveling that up with the local Pickup Plus extension. That'll be kind of the main focus of the talk today. We'll go into some details of what that can do for you and how that works. And then we'll start looking at a few other extensions to WooCommerce that can help in order management, specifically for restaurants. I think restaurants maybe have a sales flow and a process that doesn't necessarily fit in with the typical e-commerce assumption. It feels like e-commerce is maybe sort of built for the t-shirt store or something, is like what is sort of the prototype model in everybody's mind for an e-commerce store. And that obviously doesn't work for restaurants all the time. So we'll talk about some WooCommerce tools that can help you kind of tailor your site to work for a more like restaurant friendly setup. And then of course it wouldn't be a meetup without a Q&A at the end. So there is the chat's going, there's a Q&A section. Feel free to drop questions in there. I see we've got a couple folks floating around who can also answer questions. I know I'm going to call out Marcus over there in the chat, can chat you up. But yeah, well, before getting too far into this, I should explain my meme here. So BOPIS, I'm not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, but that acronym stands for Buy Online, Pick Up in Store. It's just a way to talk about like online ordering for in-store purchases. It's a term that's being thrown around. A lot of people are using. I'm not too much of a fan of. It's fine if it's effective to communicate what we want. That's great. But I think something like local pickup or ordering online also works and is usually more clear to people who don't already have the jargon in mind. So just wanted to call that out a little bit, poke some fun. Gotta have some fun here. Yeah, Drake, not a fan. Sorry, Drake's fine. He's not a fan of Opus. Anyways, let's look at some numbers. Yeah, so this is I don't know, maybe some obvious stuff. I feel like pretty much everything I'm going to talk about here, especially on this slide, is pretty well known to everybody in the restaurant industry right now. But I'm hoping that like with the numbers, you can start to get a sense of the scope of impact that online ordering is having right now. So just that very first stat, and since the beginning of the pandemic, online restaurant ordering, so that's really what we're talking about here today, has increased 93%, practically doubled. And obviously that comes with a lot of, social distancing and indoor dining restrictions that just haven't allowed for a lot of other options. A lot of restaurants and businesses have been kind of pushed into making this switch. So yeah, but I think just seeing that number, 93% of increase in ordering is helpful to kind of understand maybe some of the scope of that, if you are a restaurateur or you're working with folks who are running their sites, and seeing just a massive uptick and having a bit of a panic right now. Like, it's not just you, that's everywhere. This is happening all over the place. This is global right now. Yeah, so much so that in the next few years, by 2024, over half of limited service and quick service sales are expected to be digital. So that's, ordering on a phone, ordering online, ordering through your website, whatever platforms and avenues you have set up. Over half of your sales are expected to be coming through digital by 2024. And on the customer side, this was maybe my favorite stat that I found when I was doing research for this talk, 53% of consumers say that takeout and delivery are essential to their way of life. Maya, I felt like your questions kind of got at that for me a little bit, of how maybe essential takeout and delivery have become to my way of life. Much as I don't want to admit it, I also love to cook, but yeah, the takeout option is really great for filling in gaps when needed. Yeah, so obviously, like, those are the upsides. They're huge. They're great. 53% of people relying on this as part of their lifestyle is gonna mean that you have some customer base there, right? But with that, there's definitely challenges along the way. So first off, most obvious, I think, being a small business, the idea of managing the labor and the operations, and especially, as Maya mentioned, like the tech, running your own website. If you're a baker or a chef or something, like it's just a different skill set. This is not what you went to school for. You might be able to stretch yourself to be also running the business, but then to learn how to put that all online can be really daunting. And then there's obviously costs associated with the labor and the operations of that. If you're having to set up workflows to take orders off your website and maintain the site and keep things updated and everything like that. That can be a pretty serious upfront challenge. And for a lot of people, especially in the last year, these third-party services have come in to kind of fill that gap, right? They've seen that platforming your small business can be taxing, and managing online orders can be taxing, and the customer support that comes with that, takes a little extra work. And so these third-party services have really, they were already happening, but they've really exploded in the last year to help small businesses do that. The issue there obviously being, and I think a lot of restaurants are feeling this now, like a year into it, that the commission rates on those sales are pretty astronomically high. And losing that cut to the middleman comes pretty significantly out of a slim restaurant margin, right? The stats that I found usually estimate restaurant profit margins between like 3% and 9% on the high end. So very slim. And these third-party services are charging, pretty standardly like 25 to 30% for a delivery order. Now for pickup orders, which I'll focus on a little more today, a lot of them have like reduced rates for that. So the average that I found was closer to like 15, 16% for a pickup order specifically. But that's still a pretty large chunk coming out. I should call out a little bit of like lying in the numbers here that, looking at the profit margins for restaurants and saying like, oh, best case scenario, I'm making 9%, and then I have to give 16% away to a third party. Like, how am I ever going to make money off of that? Those numbers aren't exactly the same percentage of the same thing, if that makes sense. So it's not quite that simple. It's a little more complicated, and you can do the research into it to see exactly how it might work out for your business. But very basically, how it usually, like, to skim over some of the business calculus, how it usually ends up working out is that these commission rates end up affecting more long-term, where, as you're working with this third-party service, they offer you, all these like platforming and marketing opportunities, which are great, but that's only built into their platform. And so as your name is getting out there, you're getting, 30% less on all of those sales as a product of your marketing, because it's going to those platform fees and commissions and things like that. Whereas if you were building out that traffic yourself, or at least controlling the sales from that traffic, you're keeping that sort of like middleman fee all in-house. So that's why I think it's really important to talk about options, other ways to do this. Like, what other options do we have? And I think WooCommerce has a pretty solid offering in how to manage some of these online like restaurant orders for yourself and start to kind of take back some of the control over your own costs, right? Because a third-party service could change their prices next week, change their commission next week, and you wouldn't have any control over it. So you can start to control for some of your costs, and the process itself. You can customize a lot more of the customer experience and messaging that they see. So with that, we'll get into it. Starting, like I mentioned, with the really basics of just like how can this can already happen in WooCommerce, and here's how we can get started. Again, we've got the Q&A in the chat going, so feel free to keep those up. But yeah, let's start talking WooCommerce. So very first, right out the gate, WooCommerce just has a local pickup option that you can enable. If you've already got a site set up, or if you're setting one up, and you're going to want to be able to take orders for folks to come in and get from your store, you can just enable local pickup as a shipping method. It's one of the default options they have in there. You don't need an extra extension for it or anything. And it works. It's obviously pretty straightforward, but also pretty simple and basic. Maybe not a very featured offering. It really, you can see in the screenshot I have there, it really just adds a checkbox to checkout where a customer can say, I'm going to pick this up. So this is, really, really simple. It works pretty well for if you only have like one location for your restaurant, and you don't have to establish like when or where people are going to be going. They can just kind of schedule a pickup order, and they know, like, it just is kind of built in. You can do a little bit with this. You can determine if there's a cost to pick up, or you can even offer a discount if you want. So maybe you're doing a whole bunch of online shipping and stuff like that, and you want to incentivize people to pick up instead. You can offer a discount on it. And then you can also control how taxes are applied on that. That'll always be based on the store address, which if you're working in WooCommerce, that's a little bit different from how most of the shipping works. It's usually based on the customer address. But for local pickup, obviously, it's where the product is being delivered, and that is at the store. Yeah, so again, pretty straightforward. It's just going to be a flat rate. I think, yeah, in the screenshot I have there, there's actually no fee associated with pickups. That's why you don't see any charge added on there. But you can see the option above it with flat rate does have just a flat fee, and that's exactly what you can offer for local pickup as well if you do want to charge for that. But again, it would just be a flat fee. You can't do like a % of the order or something like that. Yeah, so this is the basic. This is what's just available in WooCommerce today. If you're already set up, it's a great like up and just to get up and running. You know, a starter case to get you going on pickup orders. But I want to talk about how we can take that a little bit further and like level up this pickup experience. And that's going to bring us to talking about this local pickup plus extension. And we'll talk about some of the detailed settings and things like that. And we'll go into a couple of the features in a little more specifics. But in general, overall, Local Pickup Plus is really just an upgrade on that existing WooCommerce experience. It allows you to set multiple pickup locations. First of all, that can be a deal breaker, I know, for a lot of companies or a lot of businesses. If you have multiple locations, then just allowing someone to pick local pickup at checkout isn't really going to do it for you. So you can set up these multiple locations. You can set up and schedule pickup appointments. So during the checkout process, the customer can say when they would like to pick the item up. Obviously, this can be pretty great to control, a restaurant workflow where you're prepping the food in the back and need to know what needs to be ready when. You can schedule those pickup appointments. You can also set minimum lead times. You can say like, hey, we can't get this certain dish ready, or this restaurant, this location, will have things ready within an hour, but no more or no less. So you can only, order for at least an hour out or something like that, depending on, again, your processes. Also, you can define pickup hours. So it's, depending on if you only want pickup to be during a certain part of the day, maybe you're too busy during the dinner shift, you have too many people coming in and you don't want to be doing pickups during that time. You can turn off pickup for that time. You can set the business hours for pickup specifically. And only during those hours, somebody will be able to schedule their appointment for pickup. And then the last point I have on there is assigning availability per product or category. So if you have other things that you just sell online, either digital products or like things that you want to ship out to folks that aren't going to be available for pickup, you can turn local pickup off for those and just offer it for certain products. So for the ones that people are going to be able to come in and get. And that can also be defined. You can also define, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, that you can define which products are available at which locations as well. So that can be pretty big if you have slightly different menus or different offerings between your stores. So we'll get into a little more detail on local pickup here. Really, Local Pickup Plus, that is really like the core unit of this extension that it adds to your WooCommerce site. Is the pickup location. So that's really where all the magic is happening. That's the main thing that it's giving you. And within that, you have all these different settings for, like I mentioned, which products are available at this location. You can set up costs or discounts, whichever way you want to go with it, whichever makes sense for you. You can set those per location. Also, the business hours and appointments. I'll talk about that more on the next slide, but those, again, per location. And one of the really cool things that you can do with Local Pickup Plus is this email list that you can set for each pickup location, where an administrator or somebody on site at that location will get an email notification whenever an order comes in for that location. So this is really good to like set up a basic baseline of communication. If you have somebody in the kitchen who's not, looking at your WooCommerce backend all the time, but you can set up, either send an email to them that they're going to see, or set up an automation system based on that email or something. But yeah, there's that trigger there of sending an email that you can use to establish that communication to the folks who actually need to know to prepare the order, right? So that all happens within the pickup location itself inside of Local Pickup Plus. There's a bunch of other settings you can see there about the location itself that will display to customers, the address and a description, things like that. And you can have however many pickup locations you want. There's not a limit on that. So Yeah, that is the locations there. And then kind of down another level of detail is the pickup appointments. So I know this one's huge for restaurants specifically. As I mentioned, you need to know when to have the food ready, and you want to have it warm for people. You don't want to just be making orders blind and hoping that they show up at some point. So pickup appointments in Local Pickup Plus are how we solve for that, right? You can set the hours of the business. Again, these are going to be your pickup hours. So we do call them business hours in the extension, but that's just the hours that that location will be open for pickup specifically. So those can differ. Like I mentioned, if you want to have a dinner shift or something like that where you don't have pickup happening, you can set those differently in the plugin from what your actual business hours are. You can also define holidays. In this case, a holiday is really just like any day that you don't want to take business or take local pickup orders. It won't shut down your site or anything. It just will say that you can't take that people can't schedule a pickup appointment on those days. So those are great for like 1 day a year times that come around that you want to define, and they'll repeat over the year. Or if you really just like, you realize like, okay, next Friday we're going to get slammed because there's this big event in town, you can set up next Friday as a no pickup day, or maybe it's an only pickup day, whichever works for you. But the holidays will allow you to kind of control that, turn it on and off as needed on a specific day. Lead time and deadline, pretty straightforward. You're just setting like either the minimum amount of time before somebody can schedule their pickup, or the maximum amount of time that like how far out they can order. Our example here shows 2 months. That's probably pretty far for most restaurants, unless you're doing like cakes that you want to really schedule things out ahead of time. But you can obviously, dial that into what makes sense to your business. All of these settings can be defined as a site-wide default. All of these pickup appointment settings, it can be a site-wide default, or you can also override them per location, or I guess, and you can then override them per location. So the great thing about that is, you can have a default to start from. So all of the new locations that you add already will have the same hours and settings and everything. But if there's some specific things where you need to change your hours at one location to accommodate for, different incoming traffic and things like that, you can do that with the pickup hours as well, just at an individual location. So that's Local Pickup Plus. It's, like I said, a lot more like full featured level up from the basic WooCommerce local pickup settings. It's also, I think just a really great way to handle pickup orders within WooCommerce. The thing that I didn't really cover here that I'll just at least call out that I'm not talking about is like delivery, obviously, right? Talked about these third-party solutions at the beginning, and most of those are also doing delivery, not just pickup. Some of them are only doing delivery and not even bothering with pickup orders. Delivery is a whole other beast to build out, obviously. And as much as there are options in WooCommerce to take and manage delivery orders, I would feel a little irresponsible like recommending them just on the basis of the amount of homework that needs to go into that decision and finding what's actually going to work for you. And obviously I think the bigger thing there is building out the actual logistics around delivery of how are you actually going to get the food to people. So I think there's just too much homework and decision making to do there. I didn't want to just kind of throw a random recommendation out there, but just to call out that those options are there and available. So now I want to talk about that's local pickup. I want to talk about some other extensions that you can use to kind of tailor your online store to more, like I said, like the restaurant style of ordering and restaurant experience. So first things first, we've got Order Status Manager. This one's kind of all in the name, right? But if you're familiar with WooCommerce, you'll know that they have kind of their core set of order statuses that are just default in every store. And obviously, because they're default for every store, they probably don't make total sense for your store, right? Odds are that there's something about it that's going to be weird, even if it might work as a general case. So Order Status Manager is going to give you that extra level of control over being able to rename existing statuses and add your own custom order statuses in WooCommerce to accommodate your prep and fulfillment processes. Again, for restaurants, this can be really different by individual restaurant. You can go from one store to the next, and they're going to have a very different process for how they prepare orders and how they get those to customers and what that looks like. Specific to the local pickup discussion, I think adding a custom order status for like ready to pick up is pretty important, right? These will also be included in like customer emails, customer communications, so that the customer knows when their order is ready, for example. And you can set up your own custom emails to be triggered based on the custom statuses. And with Order Status Manager, you can also, so both on the customer facing side and on the administration side, you can internally set up your own workflows for orders. You can say which one comes after, which one comes after that, which one comes after that. And then you can just like with a single click move an order in the WooCommerce order admin to that next status. So that's Order Status Manager, really going to help you set up a workflow that makes sense for your business. On the messaging side of things, so if customers need to know when their order is ready to be picked up, for example, Twilio is a really great way to do that via SMS. So you're sending text notifications directly to your customers that are integrated with your WooCommerce store. With the local pickup era, right? Like everybody is ordering on their phones, right? I mean, I think I've ordered from an actual computer before, but it felt weird. It's definitely like something that I do on my phone, even subconsciously without thinking about it. If I'm already there, if you can send me a text notification or something, that's super simple. The stats here, SMS messages have a ridiculous open rate, 95%, usually within 5 seconds. People are looking at these. You have to opt in to it. There's an opt-in option. I know that's obviously like a privacy concern. There is an opt-in option added. And at that point, if I've opted into it and asked you to send me this message, I'm going to look at it when you send it to me. I obviously want to see it. I've already told you that. So great thing with Twilio also, it integrates with Order Status Manager. So you can set up those notifications to link into your own custom statuses as well. So this, again, using the pickup example, like specifically when an order is ready for pickup, you can have a text that gets sent just for that. You can also use this to send SMS notifications on the admin side. So you can set up a phone number that will receive a text for your business whenever an order gets placed. And you can see both of those showing here. The one on the left, you have a new order, would be like an example of an admin message that you might receive. So getting those messages where customers are going to see them, where they're wanting to find them in the SMS is really key. Sometimes, I know I've lost things in my inbox once or twice, and that's an easy way to get around that and get the information out there. This is another fun one. So URL coupons builds on the existing WooCommerce coupon sort of infrastructure, I guess, and adds on an option to add a unique URL, so a unique link that will automatically, when somebody visits that, it will automatically apply the coupon. So whatever discount or free shipping or whatever it is, it'll automatically apply that for them. You can add a product to their cart automatically. And then you can also like redirect them once they've visited this link that gives them this coupon. You can send them straight to the checkout page and make the whole checkout experience just like completely seamless. So again, when we're talking about like customer messaging, right, with like Twilio and the custom emails and Order Status Manager, those are both great platforms for sending something like a URL coupon, where you can just include a link in your email. You can just include a link in your text that's going to allow somebody who's already purchased something from your store to get the discount off their next order, or get like one free item or something next time that they purchase from you. URL coupons is a really solid way to do that. It cuts out some of the the bulk and the extra steps of like the regular coupon code system, where you just send somebody a code and then they have to find the right box and remember to put it in and all of that. Another fact that I have on here, those coupon code boxes kind of counterintuitively can actually decrease conversion rates on a website. This sounds strange because it's like I'm offering a discount. That should improve my conversion rates. But what happens is folks that don't have a coupon code still see that box and are like, wait a minute, I should go scour the internet and see if I can find a coupon code to your restaurant. And then they go offsite, they get lost in the dark internet place that is looking for online coupons. Oh my gosh, it's bad. Just clickbait everywhere. And then the odds of them coming back decrease, right? And even if they do, now there's this kind of like psychological effect of like, oh, well, I'm back on the site, but I feel really bad now that I don't have a coupon. So maybe I'll skip this for now and see if I can get a discount next time or something. It's a weird psychological thing, but just to call that out and say that something like URL coupons allows you to skip over that process, avoid that entirely, and just send people straight on with their discount when you want them to have it. Yeah, big fan of URL coupons. That's a fun one. Yeah, so then the last few extensions I'll talk about here's I'm kind of calling the add-on suite. So the big thing with these next few is that restaurant orders can be really complicated. Yeah, there's just a lot of room for customization and additional extras and everything else that when you're in person are, pretty easy you have somebody to communicate with, right? You have that interface where you can just say, hey, I wanted to add this on, or can you guys change this? Or can I, I want this order item, but I want to substitute this and that and the other. Yeah, it can get really complicated. So the add-ons the add-on extensions that I'm going to talk about offer a few different ways that you can kind of tackle those things in an e-commerce online shopping experience. So the first one is checkout add-ons. So this is, if you think about in a restaurant order, well, just like an order overall, it's applying to the whole order. So somebody who's already got their whole order in, and then there's something about the order that they want to add on to. Maybe the easiest way that we see this, at least in the US, I'm not actually sure, like I know this custom varies by country and continent and culture, but is tipping, right? Would be a good example of, something that you add on to the whole order, right? It's an additional fee that you're adding that comes out of usually a percentage of the order total. It's not associated with any one item, it's associated with the order. So some other things that you might want to be able to add on in a restaurant context would be like condiments or utensils or any sort of like packaging options that you might have. You can add those onto the checkout page with checkout add-ons. You can associate a fee with those, either a flat rate or percentage based again, so that you can get that dialed in exactly right. And or also you can not have a fee if it's really just like a straightforward choice of one or the other. One in the current context, one good example of that would be like curbside pickup versus in-store pickup. Maybe there's not a fee associated with it or something like between the two. There's not a cost difference, but it's something that you want to get some information that you want to get from the customer that you can capture at checkout, and you can just set those up as an option of where they're going to pick up. So checkout add-ons again for like the whole order, any sort of customizations they might want to add. Next level down would be like a product add-on, right? So this is the individual product. And coming from a bit of a restaurant background, like for me, when I think of product add-ons, I always think of it as a restaurant order, as a food order item. And the default examples, like I said, are always like a shirt store or something. In my mind, this is like a restaurant extension. This is people who are going to have a complicated order and are going to want to specify really detailed things, or you have a dish that just has a lot of options that, in a service environment inside the restaurant, you might be able to ask questions like the soup or salad, or do you want fries with that, or whatever. That can all happen kind of in person. Translate that through product add-ons onto your site. So this is the bits and pieces that go into and add on to a specific product. So I guess like the place next, the burger place that's around the corner from me that I frequent, ordering online. Their system, I don't think they're on WooCommerce. We'll talk to them about that. But their system, you can select like what kind of cheese do you want on your burger, and that'll be like 75 cents extra or something like that. So that would be like a product level add-on, right? So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here. That can be a flat rate fee. You can charge quantity, so somebody can get 5 different sauces with their fry order or something, and you can charge per each one. Or you can do a percentage-based fee that has to do more with like a percent of the cost of the product itself. One other note that I did call out there that I did want to say out loud at least. This is a great spot to gather allergen or like special preparation instructions as well. Big thing in the food setting that maybe you won't see posted online when you're talking about the product add-ons extension in general. But something that I think is really top of mind for a lot of restaurants thinking about like, okay, I need to be able to get this information, but I don't have a good notes section on my site or something like that. You can specify on the product level. You could add a text input box so people can specify that there, and make any like substitution requests or whatever through product add-ons. And then the last one we'll talk about today, this is the last extension, the last of the add-on suite, but not least, is cart add-ons. So we've got checkout, we've got add-ons on the checkout page, we've got add-ons on the product page. Right in between that, we've got the cart page. And what are cart add-ons great for? This is really like your ideal upselling and cross-selling environment, right? So WooCommerce by default will allow you to associate certain products with each other to be featured on their product pages. So if you have things that are frequently purchased together or something like that, you can have those show up on each other's product pages as like a you might also be interested in link. That's pretty solid functionality for some specific cases. But if you're wanting to really upsell and add on to, doing that on the product page is actually too early because the customer hasn't added that product to their cart yet. They haven't decided that they want to purchase that, and they're still choosing between different items on your menu. So giving them a different option at that point is like redirecting their purchase to this item instead of this item. Whereas at the cart level, they've already added that item to their cart. They're already planning on purchasing a burger. So this, I mentioned this on product add-ons, but this is really maybe the ideal do you want fries with that moment of, I've added the burger to my checkout cart, and now I get to the cart page. And additionally, on top of that, not instead of, but on top of that, I'd like to add something on. So in a restaurant setting, sides, desserts are great here as well. Something that might be additional that they might not have thought of when they were, just trying to get their main entree into the cart. But you can add on these extra things, both as, maybe a sales trick of upselling, but also even like a checkout flow improvement. I'm really thinking about this burger place next door a lot in this talk. I always want fries with my order, right? And so if I don't have to navigate back to the menu to find the fries section of the menu and then click on that and then add that separately, but you can link to it straight from the cart, that's just reducing checkout friction already and helping me get through an easier checkout process. So another great way to allow folks to customize and add on to their orders with cart add-ons. So this has been kind of a speed round of managing online orders with WooCommerce. There's a lot of options here, like I said. I hope that at least something here has stood out as something that will help either you running your restaurant or setting up for clients. Cool thing about a lot of these options, and a little GoDaddy plug moment here. These are all of these extensions are available as part of the managed WordPress e-commerce hosting plan from GoDaddy. So I mentioned earlier on that a big part of bringing your own online ordering like in-house rather than through a third-party service is controlling your costs, right? And like amazing thing about this managed WordPress e-commerce plan is that really comes down to one cost. You're paying hosting for your site, and all of the extensions come with that, as well as my and a lot of other folks. It's a big team, but technical support and how to get up and running with your site, troubleshooting problems, things like that. All that in the monthly cost, really easy to budget around, in a space that can have a lot of flexible variable costs going on. Managed WordPress e-commerce hosting. Awesome. Yeah, Maya's got the link there. I've got the URL on the slide as well if you're seeing this later. Something to check out for sure. Yeah, that's it from me though. Thanks, Maya.
Hi, this was awesome. Before actually you had the presentation, I was wondering how are we going to cover this business aspect, but I think you did really nicely covered it because it seems that it's not, I mean, whoever wants to actually do proper measurement of their restaurant business, they need to have this tailor making or I don't know atmosphere or just like catering to their audience. And if they have so many of these possibilities, how they can test their business, their clients, their psychology, what they like, what they don't like, they can really save time to really build that business to be a strong one and based on the facts, right?
Absolutely, yeah. There was one that I didn't talk about that I know Marcus in the chat. He and I talked before this about an extension that we always want to plug, Google Analytics Pro. Just a quick shout out for that one, I guess. But that's exactly what you're talking about: getting those business metrics and knowing what your customers are up to, and being able to so you can make decisions like that, so that you can kind of tailor make that experience for them.
That's really awesome. Another thing, what I wanted to ask you, usually the restaurant owners, they don't have the time to understand what are the capabilities of this WooCommerce solutions. So at some point, maybe even the designer or developer or a person who actually has this website on Care should have these business understanding, right? And
Right.
so how do you, as a, just maybe if you have a website, don't care, but how do you actually then represent this as a possibility what the owners could experiment in their own businesses?
Right. Yeah. I think the developing the actual understanding of the business is really key there. So I think having somebody's website on your plan involves a lot more than just knowing how to troubleshoot within WordPress or knowing how to troubleshoot within WooCommerce. And takes a lot more sense of like what are they doing with their business and what's going to make sense to them. So that kind of comes to a individual level. You have to do that with each client. But I think I hope that like a talk like this and just kind of familiarizing yourself with the options of what WooCommerce can do. Then when a client comes up with a need in a conversation, you've got a quick that'll hopefully bring up something in your mind that can get you going on how to actually do that within WooCommerce.
Is that like is this an additional service that this designer or developer would actually be providing to the customer, to the owner? Because I think it's kind of like serious responsibility what the developer or designer has to take there, to help him out, understand, maybe even help him with the data, to understand the stats
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah, I think so. You're right. I mean, I think there is an additional level of service there to almost like business consulting on that level. That's more than just you've told me how to fix this thing on your site, but is I'm going to actually work with you on how to develop your business here in an e-commerce environment. Like you said, that somebody who got their training and their passion in life is running a restaurant might not really know how to do that and might not have that level of expertise and exposure. Yeah, I think absolutely that's an added value extra service that you can offer as a designer to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go even one step further and help you really build this out and develop this business even more than just whatever site you currently have in place or something.
And perhaps arrange a fee, right?
I would hope so. Yeah. Always include that in your fee. If you're doing work, you're getting paid.
Correct. So basically, understanding. So don't worry, Lucas. No worries. I will get in touch with you. And actually, I explained the link that you joined here to join this event. I think from Friday, the raw material will be already placed. But what I will also make, since I really see the potential in you basically answering these very critical to any restaurant business questions, because it's really important to understand what there is, what you can utilize. Maybe it will save some other time, you know. And
Yeah.
Our thing, we have a question here from Marcus. Important question to Nick and Maya. What's your go-to sauce for fries, chips, and fries? For me, it's mayonnaise. Okay, for me, mayonnaise. That's it.
Nice. Okay, I'm close. I'm like I'm on fry sauce, which I think one of my favorite things about fry sauce is that it doesn't have a widely agreed upon recipe. Like whatever restaurant you go to, they might do it a little bit different. It's usually like I think it's like a ketchup and mayonnaise mix, which I'm a big fan of.
I
But
did.
just
I
went to a
actually,
place.
I was addicted to this at some point, but then I just.
It's so good. Oh, I just went to a place that did it with tartar sauce. It was like ketchup and tartar sauce, and oh, that was so good. Yep, and fry
So
sauce
we
is
also
classic.
have Ugyen with us. Hi, Ugyen. It's really nice to see you again. You're very welcome to any of our meetups. Ugyen is actually representing the WordPress community in Bhutan. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, from Far East. I hope it's not very late for you. I don't have
Yeah.
many questions in the chat, but I want to maybe ask you a couple of more things. I mean, it seems that you've been exploring extensions quite a lot. How important it is to understand each potential of each extension when it comes to the customers. How deep you need to go? Do you like open it from the beginning until the end, or?
Yeah, that's tough, right? WooCommerce is like, and I mean, it's the whole WordPress environment is this sort of building block mentality of you have all your different little pieces that you can kind of put together however you want. But that means that there's a lot to know. There's a lot of products out there that you might need to know about. I think at least for the starter, if just to be like able to recommend or aware of what's available is kind of the most important thing. So knowing what options are out there, you don't have to get into the exactly how everything works right up front. I don't think. A lot of this depends on as a developer having conversations with a client, how you structure that talk. I would say up front you want to get a lot more information about their needs rather than your solutions. And then you can kind of take their needs and go look online and do your Googling, when you're not sitting in a room with them or on a Zoom call with them. And then you can kind of nail things down on what could actually be done and what's possible. But for that first talk, I think that's where it's important to know broadly what's possible on the platform, right? And so with extensions, I think just knowing the real basics of like local pickup plus allows you to have multiple pickup locations that people can pick up an order from or something. That's really like the core that you need to know. And then when you hear a need, to go look into maybe some more details on, okay, I know that this kind of works, but don't take it at like face value that, okay, it's called this, so it's going to work in my case either, right? You do need to end up doing that homework at some point before just like installing the plugin and setting the client loose with it. But yeah, I think up front, just like some basic knowledge. If you can get on the product page for the extension and just get like the main tagline in your brain, that's going to be the big like selling point for whatever it is, and that'll help you at least expand your understanding of what's possible on the platform. Because it's a lot of it's not built in, and you have to know where to look.
True, and many more are just coming up. So we have one question from Lucas. He's apologizing because he might have missed that part of the session where we spoke to, but he's asking why WooCommerce over CrowBlock package, especially for restaurants.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with Crocoblock, so I couldn't speak to like the comparison there specifically. I think my big selling point on WooCommerce, like, and looking at it from a restaurant, if you look back through the talk, a lot of it was really about costs and control. And you're with WooCommerce, you have control over your platform. You're not, on somebody else's platform that you're paying a fee for. You have control over your site and what's on there and what that experience is like. But also, what your costs associated with that are. Like, you have these extensions that you can add on to it. If you're not on our managed WordPress e-commerce plan, then you're paying like per extension, but that's still at least like a controlled cost on that level. And it's a platform that you're putting together. To me, I don't see other platforms that are allowing you to kind of build out your own control over things quite as much as WooCommerce does. So to me, that's the big selling point. I'm curious, like, for maybe a restaurant owner who doesn't care so much about the details, maybe that's not as persuasive. But for me, that's really the big one.
That's awesome. So I just checked the Croco blocks. They look very spacey, to be honest. But what I would also like to understand as a matter of comparison, like how much you can automate there, how much you can customize for your own needs, and do you need to have something to support it, because it looks really nice. I mean, I think every day we will find out something that something better showed up, and I hope it's in our interest to use the best possible things that could be created. Thank you, Lucas, for asking the question. I'm sure you're going to be overwhelmed, and you will have something to compare now, because Nick actually a very deep talk about certain services, which you can just check if you can do that. And if you don't mind, send us your report on that and tell us how it's actually working. We would really like to know that. Ugyen has a question for us. How restaurant WooCommerce site manages the delivery services online? Is it something that integrates with Google Maps?
Yeah, so delivery, I mentioned during the chat that delivery is a really just complicated system, right? I would say this is one to do homework on. There are solutions that you can integrate with Google Maps, yes. I don't know. I don't have enough prepared to feel like I can speak informedly enough. My main thing during the talk, like I said, was that delivery is just such a thing to wrap your head around. There's a lot of logistics, not just on the order placement side, which is maybe how I usually think about it, of like, how can I allow a customer to send me their address and show where that is, and all these things like built into the system, but also, the business logistics behind it, and managing. And even if you're in a developer client relationship and you don't have to worry about, the delivery drivers or whatever, you still have to get the information. How does the information get to them? How do they know where to go? That sort of thing. There are solutions for it. I didn't get any like specifics that I really want to recommend, and I'm sorry about that. Hit me up on LinkedIn or something, and we can chat about it more.
Look, but we have an answer from Lucas, and he's so inspirative in his answers. He says, CrocoBlock is basically a huge package where you get a few extensions and you can use only the ones that would be useful for your project. It's a one-time fee, and it's actually wonderful. I use it for my clients, and it's flawless. I actually work with it on nearly every single project, and that's why I was curious to see how you guys were working without that.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I'll have to take a closer look at that then. I'm on the website. It looks like they're built into it's like a WordPress situation, so that's really cool.
It's always good to have competition in the market, because the final product on both ends should be much better. So that's great.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I'm really sorry that I would have to close this session very soon. Nikla, it was an amazing opportunity to see you tonight and hear from you so many great things. Second of all, we hope to see you more, actually. So since you really inspired us all, and business is something that we all need to do, that our lives depend on, and our families. I think we will invite you for a couple of more sessions so we can discuss maybe different industries. and speak to people. Also, in the previous part of the chat, there is a link to Nick's LinkedIn profile if you guys would like to get that, because you might have some questions for him later. And basically, that's it. Thank you very much. It was really awesome to have you all. Next week, we're talking about fitness, online fitness development tactics. So that's, I mean, that's a really challenging industry in the pandemic time as well. So their way to find the customers or to keep the existing clients, it's really hard at the moment. Thank you everything for that you have given us tonight, and I wish you guys all the best. See you.
Thanks, Maya. Bye.